Hey there Dolly Mixtures, this is definitely a little bit of a nerve-wracking video that I'm going to be making. I put out the call quite some time ago now for Q&A questions that are not related to witchcraft or spirituality, that are not necessarily related to self-development or anything like that, but are really more about who I am as a human being, what my life experiences have been, what kinds of things I'm interested in aside from the stuff that I talk about on my channel. And I am nervous, I have to tell you. I am going to dive into the questions. There were absolutely shitloads of them. I asked on Facebook, that's where I put the call out, and I want to thank every single person who asked me a question. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry if I don't get to yours in particular. I'm definitely going to try not to skirt around the ones that make me feel specifically uncomfy or as though I don't want to answer them, because the whole point of this exercise is that I give you the opportunity to learn more about me. And there are some questions that have been asked over the course of time that I have sidestepped or that I have answered privately but not publicly. There are some questions that I do feel are not important to answer. Some things about my personal life that, you know, I really don't think it's necessary for people to have access to that info. At the same time, I can appreciate that curiosity does build when you are interested in what someone is saying on a pretty regular basis, but you don't really know much about what happens in their day-to-day life. And I think that can feel sometimes a little bit uncomfy or unscrupulous. And I know that before I revealed my political views on certain things, there were definitely some people in my audience who felt weird about me or wondered whether or not they could continue to support my content. And once I came out with, you know, certain political views on things, they told me that they felt much more comfortable. And I think sometimes that can be the case with personal stuff too. It's just knowing a little bit more about where the land lies with somebody. And I can appreciate that. So that's one of the reasons that I want to do this. I suppose the reasons are myriad, but that's one of the reasons. And I'm interested, I'm intrigued to see what comes of this. And I hope it gives you guys an opportunity, particularly if you've followed my work for a long time, to get to know a little bit more about me as a flesh and blood, very flawed human being. I'm definitely going to be doing a few of these Q&As. I'm not going to stop with just this one, but this is going to be the first of a few. So there's a couple of things I want to answer, questions that I want to answer first of all, just to get them out of the way, that are a little bit more of the housekeepy variety. And what I mean by that is that they are related very much to my YouTube life and the way that I present on YouTube, etc. So first thing that I get asked quite a lot that I want to sort of put to bed, if you will, is whether or not I script my videos. The answer to that is that usually I do have some notes to let me sort of anchor into where it's going to go and the main points that I want to make. But the notes that I make are really just a sentence or two for each point, and then I flesh it out in real time with what spontaneously comes to me. But certainly the vast majority of my videos are made with some form of notes. In fact, I have here, just coincidentally, the book that I use at the moment to make my video notes, and it really is just like point one and then a couple of sentences, point two and then a sentence or two, you know, and it just helps to keep me on track. Some of the notes are longer than others and more detailed than others, but still things are fleshed out a lot. So for instance, these are my notes for my psychic showboating video that I did a while ago, and you can see it's just 9 points that I wanted to make sure that I hit. And that's the main reason that I write notes, really, is I hate the feeling of recording a video and then realizing at the end that I forgot to mention something. Another question that I'm asked quite a lot is whether or not I ever thought that my YouTube channel would get to this kind of subscriber count, whether or not I ever thought I would have as much engagement as this, and that kind of thing. And sometimes people also ask me, did you ever think you'd have a full-time business doing what you love to do? And to be honest with you, I feel in a way that I always knew I was ambitious enough to make the business full-time if people were responding to what I was doing and the products and services I was providing, which they did. In terms of YouTube channel audience engagement and that kind of thing, obviously I'm so grateful and so delighted that people are engaging with my work. I love it. It's such an amazing part of every day of my life. I love having conversations with people from all over the world about everything they've been through and all that they're experiencing and how they resonate with what I've been experiencing. It is a fucking trip, and I would not let go of it for love nor money. But as to whether or not I thought I would actually be able to generate this and create it, yeah, I did. Partly because it's the kind of thing that I really love and I really enjoy. I want to interact with people. I want to get my messages out there. I want to converse and I want to create strong content that people, you know, take value from, and I enjoy doing it. So I'm not necessarily surprised that I've created something that that some people do really like to engage with, and I'm not surprised that I can be conversant and engaging, because that's something that I can do. That's one of my skills. I have a lot of flaws, I have a lot of things that I can't do, I have a lot of weaknesses, but that's certainly not one of them. And like I said, I think if you're ambitious and you want to build something and you want it to work for you, but also to nourish you and to nourish others, then you have a very high chance of that happening if you remain consistent and you really center yourself in self-mastery, basically. So that's the answer to that question. And when it comes to like talking on camera and videos, making videos and stuff, it's not everybody's strong point to engage that way, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be everybody's strong point, but it is something that I always wanted to do from being a small child. I always wanted to be on camera. I always wanted to be, you know, sort of putting something across, conveying something. I really liked that feeling of conveying something. It wasn't necessarily so much just about the raw attention. It wasn't like I would do anything to get attention. It was something very specific that I wanted a specific kind of attention for, if that makes sense. And it was to do with teaching, conversing, conveying, putting something across. I definitely also always like to turn a look. There is that, but I don't think that's got too much to do with the fact that my YouTube channel grew. I don't know though, maybe you enjoy these ridiculous jumper necklace combos. I couldn't say. Two more things about my channel that people ask me regularly. Number one, why is there a Black Lives Matter hashtag above the titles of most of my videos? The reason for that is because YouTube made a change a while ago where they actually feature the first hashtag that you place in the description of your video above the title. Okay, that's what's happened. That wasn't happening before, but it is happening now. The first thing that YouTube can find to actually hashtag in the down bar of my videos is Black Lives Matter, because that's the first thing that I have listed on this kind of like index of organizations and charities, etc., that I support. I'm not going to change that because I still support Black Lives Matter, and I will continue to support Black Lives Matter. I support the premise, I support the aims, I support the social and cultural movement, I support the discussion, and so I'm not bothered about the fact that there's Black Lives Matter hashtagged above all of my videos. It's just not necessarily relevant to what the video is about, but it's definitely relevant to who I am as a human being, so I see no need to change it. And finally, another thing that people ask me on and off that I want to answer and I want to get into is well, you know what, people ask it in different ways, and there's not really one specific question. It's just people focusing on this, and I have brought it up before a long time ago on my channel, but let me just bring it up again so I can kind of dead it for a while longer. I know it will come up again in the future, but just to dead it for a bit longer. Okay, drinking alcohol. Okay, every so often I just get someone asking me, are you sure you're not drinking too much? Why do you drink on camera? Do you think you have a problem with drinking? You seem to be drinking a lot. Okay, first of all, I don't drink a lot on camera. That's such a misconception. I think when somebody has concerns about alcohol consumption, or when they feel a certain way about alcohol, they will zoom in on someone who is drinking, and it will become a big deal to them, you know? I do drink alcohol in some of my videos. I do also drink tea in a lot of my videos. I'm usually drinking a beverage because, surprise, surprise, I'm talking a hell of a lot, right? But I do think that it's really important that you guys understand a few things about me. First of all, culture is different when it comes to booze, all right? Now, some people do have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and they need to deal with that unhealthy relationship, and it's unfortunate. It can be highly addictive. It can certainly be a destructive drug. There's no doubt. However, at the same time, there are lots of people who have a healthy relationship with alcohol, and depending on the culture that you come from, that healthy relationship may look slightly different, okay? In England, we have a culture of drinking not only to get blind drunk, but also for refreshment, for celebration, celebration. We have lunchtime drinks when we leave our offices sometimes at lunch. You know, we have a celebration drink after work or two and then go home. We don't always get shit-faced. We drink a refreshing beer in the summertime you know, we stop having a walk along the canal and stop at the pub and drink a beer. It's normal, it's a refreshment, it's to quench and quell our thirst and make us feel good for the rest of the walk. It's not to get drunk. It's not to really alter our state of mind hugely. It's just a little buzz, a little lift, and it's a cultural thing. Second of all, I film my videos usually in batches of 2 or 3, and usually late at night after I've finished all my client stuff that I've got to get done and whatnot. Usually that's when I might like to have a nightcap. For the record, I do not drink every day. I drink, I would say, 2 to 3 times a week. So I drink at the weekend socially, and I may have a drink, say, after my volunteer shift during the week, or if I fancy a glass of wine with my dinner. But I do feel like it's really important for people to understand where they're coming at the whole topic of alcohol from culturally. There is a very different drinking culture in the US than there is in the UK. There is a very different drinking culture in certain other parts of the world than there is in Europe. And I think there needs to be some respect for that. I do not see alcohol as inherently bad or inherently problematic, the same way I actually don't see any substance whatsoever as inherently bad in and of itself. And I could go into that more, but ultimately I feel like I have a very healthy relationship with booze. I always have had. I've never found it moreish, and I actually do not enjoy being drunk. I enjoy the feeling of sometimes being tipsy, so where you start to feel like you're getting a little bit more, you know, relaxed, maybe a little, I don't know, just relaxed, giggly, you know, a little bit more chatty than you were before, maybe, if that's fucking possible for me. But the minute that I start to get drunk, I'm outie 5,000, okay? I'm drinking water, I'm switching to non-alcoholic drink. I don't want to be drunk. And it's been a long time since I got shit-faced, guys. I'm not into it. I'm not about that life. Please do not worry about me, okay? I don't have a problem with booze. I'm going to continue to drink on camera. It's just something that I do when I'm doing things I enjoy, and making videos is something that I enjoy. I want to state for the record that I hugely respect people who are on a journey of sobriety and who have recognised that their relationship with booze was not healthy. Please know that. Please understand that. Please don't think that I'm trying to be aggressive or irresponsible towards anyone who has had to cease drinking. But for me, my point of view is, you know, I smoked very heavily for quite a while back there, cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore, but I have to be around people that smoke quite regularly. It's just one of those things, you know, your journey doesn't mean that the rest of the world stops turning and everybody else stops everything they're doing and everybody constantly focuses on your needs and what's going on with you. It doesn't happen like that. It didn't happen like that for me when I stopped smoking, and it's not going to happen like that for people on a journey of sobriety from alcohol. And they know that. They know that that's a part of their journey that they need to grapple with. So I don't feel like it's my solemn duty to pretend that I don't drink anything ever, okay? So I just wanted to kind of mention that because that comes up fairly regularly. Let's get into some of the other questions that have been posed to me. Somebody is asking here, how did you get over your eating disorder? This is probably a whole video in and of itself, and I can definitely attempt to talk more about it in its own dedicated video. But I remember one specific thing that really helped me, and it was a passage by Naomi Wolf from The Beauty Myth. And I remember that I was looking for answers. I was looking for an understanding of why I was trying to control my weight, my appearance, the way that I was perceived by people. I was looking for answers as to why I'd gotten myself into this huge pickle, and it did cause me to have my first flirtations with feminist literature and, you know, feminist writing. And I picked up The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. I can't remember why. I can't remember if someone recommended it or what. I think I picked it up from the library. I like the look of it. I like the look of what it said. And there's a passage in there, and I read it, and it really did do something to me at the time. At the time, it was just what I needed at that moment. And I ate a sandwich later that day for the first time in almost 2 years. So I will leave that particular passage for you down below if you would like to read it. I will leave it for you in the down bar. Of course, one of the important things about that story is that I was ready. I was ready to find something that was going to be alchemical. And I think if you're not ready for that, then it's likely that you are coming across perhaps quite a lot of alchemical material and it's not making a blind bit of difference. But for me, I was open, and that was something that I came across that really helped. The same person is asking whether or not I ever find myself slipping back into old unhelpful habits around food restriction. And I would say, yeah, I definitely feel the beginning of that slipping for sure. And I've stated on the channel before, and I'll say it again, that sometimes when I'm going through something that is very tumultuous, very stressful, or very pressurizing, my first instinct is to regain control through controlling what I eat, controlling what I weigh, etc. And I've just learned over time how to make sure that it's only the very, very, very smallest of an inkling that there's going to be a slip, and then I pull myself back on track. But yeah, it's definitely still something that there is an urge towards. As soon as things start to go a bit higgledy-piggledy, that is something that just gave me so much comfort in the past, so much false empowerment, and it is very powerful. It is very potent. The draw towards it is potent. So yes, I definitely do. And you know what, I really will endeavour to make a whole video on this, because I think there's a lot to it that I certainly can't delve into now because I want to do more questions, but it is important, and I do want to put a resource out there about it. Somebody else is asking, are you in love or are you looking for love? I am very much in love at the moment with my partner. I am not actively looking for anything else, but I am polyamorous, and I am in an open relationship, an ethically non-monogamous relationship with my partner. This is something that I've explored before. It's not the first time that I've done this. I feel like it is definitely sort of more my default setting, and my partner has been in similar kinds of non-monogamous frameworks before, so certainly it's not something that I am closed to. I do feel that I can be romantically involved with multiple people at once. I feel like I can be in love with multiple people at once. Again, this is something that probably warrants its own video. But am I, you know, batshit crazy in love with my partner at the moment? Absolutely, 100%. Do not pass go, do not collect 200. It's definitely love. I mean, this person is such a cosmic co-pilot, it's untrue. Ketchup or brown sauce? Fuck brown sauce for life, like ketchup all the way. What is your day-to-day life like? That's a really intriguing question. Well, my day-to-day life does vary. I don't stick to a super strict schedule, but the main things that are going to be happening are I'm going to be doing client readings, I'm going to be filming client readings, writing client readings, and also seeing clients via Skype on a timed basis for Skype readings, and also for counselling sessions and mentoring. And I work basically 6 days a week. Wednesday is the only day that I don't see any clients, although I do have I do try to have 1 to 2 weekends completely off a month, but sometimes that's only one weekend that I fully get off a month, because I do like to give my clients weekend availability wherever possible. So I do work very hard. I work with lots of repeat clients. Other than that, I am usually walking, doing spiritual practice. I like to go to the gym. I have a social life that is normally vastly oriented around the weekend. So if I'm not working in the weekend, or I'm not working in the evening, I will be going out, I will be seeing people, I'll be drinking, I'll be dancing, I'll be raving maybe, we'll be going to a music event in a lot of cases, or I'll be going to stay with friends, or they'll be coming to stay with me, or I will just be having time with myself. I'll be reading. I do sometimes cook dinner for 1 or 2 friends during the week. I cook dinner for my partner sometimes in the week, or for my best friend who lives around the corner from me. So there's a lot of that basically. It's a really normal life, you know. I might do a bit of studying, I might play with some decks, obviously there's video making. It's so super normal, honestly. There's nothing really that you wouldn't expect that goes on. I did start volunteering shifts recently, so I'm working now at the night shelter, working with the homeless. That's a really nice addition to my week as well. So yeah, it's just basic stuff really. It's just, what can I say? Apparently I'm a basic bitch. When did you become vegan, and what put you on this path? I actually became vegan in my 20s, and I was vegan in my 20s for about, I'd say a year, maybe a year and a half max. And then I reverted back to vegetarianism. I think I just wasn't ready to make the full commitment. It was easy to do it when I was happy with my partner at the time. But when I broke up from him and my life became a bit of a chaotic black hole, and I was like spinning around, you know, on the edge of the Wheel of Fortune kind of situation, guys, for those who are tarot literate, I simply found that I felt that I couldn't sustain it. I felt like it was too much and I wanted to go back to vegetarianism. And so I just stuck with vegetarianism. I've been veggie since I was 14. And then about 3 years ago now, is it 3 years ago? Hang on a second. Hang on, I need to figure it out. So we became vegan just before we went to Berlin. 18. Yeah, so it's been just over 3 years that I've been vegan again. That was really just a slow build up to me beginning to recognise once again what I've thought all along, which is that if you are vegetarian for ethical and moral and spiritual reasons and environmental reasons even, then it's just a train station on the stop to, on the way to the final destination, which is veganism. You know, that's what makes sense. If you are veggie for those reasons, then, you know, you're trying to go towards veganism, and it was playing on my mind more and more and more and more and more. And so, yeah, in 2015, I just said to my partner at the time, who was also veggie, that I wanted to go vegan, and they said, you know what, so do I. So we actually made the transition together. It was way better. I feel like I went out there and I gathered way more information than I did before. I purchased so many less meat substitutes and stuff like that, you know, sausages and all the rest of it. And I really just went in for something super simple, very sustainable on a very sort of weird and wonderful budget that you have when you're self-employed, and it's like, woo, okay, I've got loads of money, I've got no money, I've got loads of money. So yeah, I really felt like I did it the right way this time, and it was more than just being plant-based. I mean, before, when I became vegan in my 20s, I did take into consideration partly things like makeup and toiletries, but not fully. Whereas now, you know, I look for vegan makeup brushes, and I've tried to replace everything that I had that wasn't vegan and cruelty free with vegan and cruelty free stuff. So it's fully more of a lifestyle change. And in answer to your question, why, fully moral and ethical reasons. I don't agree in any world with what's happening in the meat industry. I despise every fibre of it. I love animals. I don't feel I need to eat animals to be healthy. I believe that what is happening to animals is completely fucking wrong. I believe that factory farming is totally wrong. The dairy industry is sick. It's arse backwards, all of it. So it's really basically just not wanting to be a massive hypocrite anymore, and realising that there are so many shitty things that go on in the world that I can't change, and that actually my taxes fund all kinds of fucked up shit that I do not agree with. Not one fibre of my being agrees with it, and other than petitioning and protesting, there's not a lot I can do about it, you know. It's out of my hands. Whereas veganism is something that is incredibly obvious, you know. You are taking yourself out of the supply and demand chain. You are making such a everyday statement, even though I would say it's still a very passive thing to do. And if you love animals and you want to fight for them, veganism is only the first step. You should always be doing more where you can. But not doing that, being so bothered about the meat industry, the dairy industry, the way the animals are treated, the feeling that animals are sentient and that they have feelings and that they have needs and souls, you know, like if you're not doing something about that with your everyday diet in some regard, even if it's just meat-free Mondays, then you are living with the burden of quite a lot of personal hypocrisy that you can do something about, that really is within your power to control, at least where you are concerned, you know. So I'm so happy, and I it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my whole fucking life. I love being vegan. It's so much a part of who I am and my experience, and I just love it. I just love it. When confronted with a person who is being offensive, how do you deal with it? It really does depend on the manner of the offence, the environment, who is involved. Are they being offensive to just me, or are they being offensive to others? Because I can take quite a lot of shit if it's just personally me that's being attacked. But the minute that the person starts to also attack other people or make them uncomfortable, then I'm much more likely to act. In fact, in the case of YouTube comments that are, you know, out of pocket, basically, if it's just me that's being attacked, I actually sort of mostly tend to leave those comments up. I actually leave a lot of very misogynistic comments up a lot of the time, because I feel like it just shows them up as what they are, talking about what they want to do to me, or just clearly not even watching the video and saying something like, this big titted, you know, lipstick like plastered bitch doesn't know the first thing about magic. It's like, you didn't even watch the video, and like, that's clear. So I just leave them up. But the minute that someone comes in and starts attacking others who are just trying to politely comment, that's where, you know, I step in. And it tends to be that way in my personal life as well. I remember one specific time that I ejected somebody from a massive house party that I was having, because they did something that offended my friend, and I felt like I had to defend my friend. And it was, you know, it got kind of hairy there for a minute, but I stood my ground and I was like, no, you need to leave, you have not been fair to her. And that guy left. So it's a lot of the time, I guess it is about feeling like I want to do what is just for the other person, especially if they might feel like they can't do it themselves or they need me to intervene. Sometimes I have intervened on behalf of women, whether they're friends of mine or not, who find themselves in difficult situations with pushy men or whatever. That tends to be an area for me where I feel very like, you know, more the person that feels they can step forward, which is funny because I'm tiny, I'm really tiny. But there's something about my countenance and my whole demeanour that makes a person like back off, and especially if there are other people around, kind of realise like, okay, this is not the one that I want to fuck with. She's going to make a fuss, she's going to alert people to the situation, she's not just going to go quietly, basically. So I don't know if that answers the question, because that's not really so much about offensiveness per se. It's more about bad behaviour and how I respond to that. Again, it really does depend on the circumstances. I often give people the benefit of the doubt when they have said something that I find offensive, because I feel like we can be extremely reactionary and very quick to cancel people when we feel like they've said something offensive. But a lot of the time they don't have perhaps the lexicon and the vernacular to be able to explain it in a less offensive way. I do think that people who are incredibly progressive and very up on like the lingo and what's going on now with civil liberties and human rights and, you know, different marginalised groups that maybe weren't getting mainstream attention before or are only really getting mainstream attention now, I feel like those people who are really at the forefront of that movement, they forget that there are lots of people who simply don't have access to this lexicon. They're trying to say something in a very like ham-fisted or clumsy way, but they're not trying to be offensive. It's just that they don't have the language. And I think that very often progressives, if you like, for want of a better word right now, they don't realise how often they are extremely exclusionary and very quick to judge others as being intentionally offensive or whatever. I think often it's not remembered that some people come from a totally different background or a totally different era, or they're trying to say something but they don't have perhaps the lexicon that we're currently using. There's been a lot of linguistic changes, and I find a lot of people sort of accusing others of being offensive based on them using old words that actually were in vogue when even I was younger. I'm 33 now. So if you're not keeping up with all that shit and you're trying to explain how you feel about something or what you're confused about, but you're not using the exact language that's, you know, that's considered to be right at this point in time, then you're going to be very much in danger of being accused of being offensive when that's totally not fair. So a lot of the time if somebody said something offensive, I really think about whether or not it's important to give them the benefit of the doubt based on their life experiences, who they are, what kind of information they have access to, and whether or not they're just saying something in genuinely a totally innocent way and not meaning to be offensive to me, you know? So I try and hold a lot more space for that than I see a lot of typical, very vocal progressives holding. They hold like zero space for that, really, and it kind of infuriates me a bit. What would you do in New York City if you ever came? I have been to New York City before. I absolutely adore that city. It is my second favourite city in the whole wide world. Only London comes before New York. I adore New York so much, and I must go back. I must go back, honestly. But yeah, I would definitely arrange some sort of meet-up. I would love to have a meet-up in New York. I would walk from the fucking bottom to the top. I'd walk around all the boroughs as well. I love walking around New York and just exploring it. I think that's absolutely amazing. I would definitely see what was on in terms of live music and go and see stuff, go and enjoy a night out clubbing in New York, or trying to find an illicit party I can go to, because I've never done that before. I have seen bands in New York, but I've never done like a techno event or something. I'd love to do that. You know, I'd go drinking and talking to New Yorkers. I'd take photos. I'd go around Central Park and I'd cry when I left. The last time I left New York, I cried. I just felt like I was leaving a kindred spirit that I'd met and spent 10 days with. It was just so far out. New York is just like, it's built on a very special sigil, and it really captured my heart, and it never let go. Never let it go. It's such an amazing city. Oh my God, I'd love to have a meet up there. That'd be incredible. And go and see like some witchy places, because I've been recommended quite a few witchy places in New York to shop and stuff, and in like Philly and other, you know, like basically I want to do a little sort of list of the places that I need to go, the witchy shops and galleries and stuff like that, like places full of curiosities or whatever. People do recommend that stuff to me, and I think to myself, oh, that's another place I definitely want to visit when I go there. What are your go-to recipes for breakfast? I do like having protein shakes for breakfast, so I like to have a little bit of like a scoop of chocolate protein powder. I use the Siamex chocolate protein powder, and then some water and some almond milk or soy milk or whatever, and then put some strawberries in there and some chia seeds and mush it all up, you know, in the blender. But a lot of the time I don't do that. It's too fiddly. I can't be bothered with the washing up, but it is a nice thing to sip if I've had a very heavy gym session, as a kind of pick me up afterwards. A lot of the time for breakfast I just really love to eat fruit, and I only eat breakfast if I really feel like it and if I'm really hungry. Sometimes I'm not hungry till lunch, and I definitely don't believe in the whole breakfast, lunch and dinner as a given kind of thing, you know. I only eat when I feel the physical urge to eat, if I can at all help it. Sometimes if I've got PMT, that doesn't work. What do you really like apart from tarot? Apart from tarot and the witchy stuff and the, I don't know, like psycho-spiritual stuff, I really love attending music events, and I really love keeping up with music that's coming out. I really love kind of attending gigs and sets from DJs and stuff. I love going to festivals and that kind of thing. So I'm really about that kind of whole life. I'm about rave culture. I'm about dance music culture. I know it's very different from place to place, and the specific kind of dance culture I'm talking about is going to be very different to what a lot of you guys think and what a lot of you guys have seen. It's very different from country to country, and it's different from genre to genre. So please, you know, don't have a big vision of what I mean by dance culture. It's very specific here in the UK, and certainly in and around London as well. So there's that. I really love style. I really love clothing. I really am passionate about all of that. I'm passionate about art, and what else? What else do I love? I really am interested in just trying to be of service and trying to be better. So I'm really really interested in veganism, I'm really interested in animal advocacy, I'm really interested so much more now than I ever was in volunteering and community work and thinking about how I can be better in that regard. So that's really important to me. I am, I suppose, what you would call like a political person. In a lot of ways, I tend to be up on current affairs and wanting to talk about current affairs, wanting to read about what's going on in the world, and that kind of thing. So, and I really do love spending time with friends and talking with friends and bonding with friends, but I do also find that I have to very much balance that out with time spent in solitude and recuperating and stuff, because my work, which is obviously, you know, I work with clients, I read for them, I counsel them, etc., that can be something that requires a lot of downtime, you know. Also, I love collage art. I'm a collage artist. I love making visual art. That's something that I've really come back to in the last couple of years. I also write poetry. I love doing both of those things, and I definitely want to put some stuff out that is more about that and not really link it to the witchy and spiritual stuff. Like, I definitely do want to make a deck and things like that, but I also want to maybe put a poetry collection out there that is my poetry about love and sex and death and stuff, and not necessarily so centered on goddess or spirit or whatever. And I think that will be really interesting, and maybe you guys aren't the audience for that, or maybe you are, I don't know, but I would like to do that. How is your mental health and how is your chronic pain? First of all, thank you for asking. My chronic pain, you know, it is something that I deal with on and off. It's something that's a lot better than it was before. It's something that I'm more confident in being able to control, but when I can't control it, it is scary and frustrating. So there's the answer to that, but I'm not on any frequent medications. I'm not seeing a doctor or a physio, so I'm definitely a lot better in that regard than I was in the past, and I'm so lucky and fortunate for that. For those who don't know, I have a back injury, and it really did mess with me for about half a decade back there. So my mental health, I would say that since February 2018, it's been reasonably good. February 2018 was when I had my last big bout of depression and dealing with depression. And you know what? When I'm going through a depressive episode, I don't usually need to stop working. I might take my foot off the gas a little bit with video making, but I don't usually stop completely. I tend to be able to keep things fairly normalized, but it is definitely very difficult for me. And one of the things that I do that makes it easier is just to let my loved ones know that it is depression. As soon as I know that it is depression, I let people know. I let people know what I'm going through, and then they are able to check in on me, and it becomes something that we can talk about and something that other people are aware of and interacting with me on, rather than me just suffering on my own, which used to very much be the case. So, you know, that's something that I've found obviously is a better way of dealing with that specific kind of thing. I don't expect my depressive episodes to go the way of the dodo anytime soon, and I've talked about that on the channel before. I'll leave a couple of videos down below for those of you who haven't seen the material that I've put out on depression and would like to watch. But yeah, thank you for asking, and it's just an ongoing process and something that I keep learning about all the time, and I keep using what I've already learned, and I'm happy with where I am. I'm happy with the progress I've made, for sure. And there are so many things that were a part of my life before, like food restriction and self-harm and things like that, and isolating myself for long periods of time, and also issues with psychosis that I just do not deal with anymore. That's very fortunate for me, and I'm grateful for that all the time. How do you handle clients who seem dependent on getting the answers that they want to hear and not the truth? How do you handle clients who ask the same questions again and again, hoping to hear a different answer from you? Basically, this might seem like a really boring answer to a very potentially juicy and salacious question, but I don't really get clients like that. First of all, I think because of the sheer amount of content that I've put out online and how clear I have been about my beliefs about what I do and what I use the cards for and stuff, it is really just a very unlikely scenario that somebody would book me and work with me who was intent on hearing their own version of what they wanted, rather than working with me to kind of find useful messages and potentially challenging ones. So what I'm trying to say basically is, because of the content I've put out and because of the clarity that I've created around what my services provide and what I do, I have drawn to me clients that are very interested in shadow work. They are very interested in what they can change and how they can look at things differently and how they can challenge themselves to question their perspectives. I don't really engage or encounter, basically, I don't encounter clients that want me to say what they want to hear. You know, so there's that. And if a client was going to ask me the same question over and over and over and over again, I would very quickly identify that as an issue, and I would refund their money, and I would write to them and explain to them why I was refunding their money, and say, you know, sit with the messages and do the exercises that I've outlined in the reading and give it some time. And if you feel like I'm still the right reader to address the issue with again in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, then do come back. You know, I definitely would have no qualms doing that, because I want to always do what I feel is best for my clientele. And if I feel like they are banging their head off a brick wall by purchasing another reading and another reading, I will definitely say something. And I certainly have given advice to clients who converse with me about the regularity of their readings and whether or not the regularity is okay, and what would be best for them. And I'm very honest. I am never about you know, encouraging somebody to get more and more services and products from me if I feel like it's not appropriate for them. Have you ever lost your sense of self within a romantic relationship? If so, how have you recalibrated and made sure to not slip into the same patterns with new romantic interests? Yeah, I totally lost myself in my first major love relationship as a teenager. We totally just locked into a psycho-spiritually Siamese thing, and it sounds like I'm really glorifying it and making it sound beautiful and wonderful, but it was not what I thought that it was. It was unhealthy and it was abusive, and it really damaged me for quite a long time. I had to come to a realization that I am a very romantic person. I'm very interested in romantic bonds, intimate bonds, and close human bonds and interactions, and I always have been. I've always been very fascinated by that. I remember, you know, so young, loving to watch like Catherine Cookson on TV or Jane Austen. I was really interested in the scene you know, with Jane Eyre and Lord Rochester, and the conversation that they had about how if she went away he would bleed inwardly. Like, even when I was really young, I was thinking, I can't wait to grow up and just feel these intense, beautiful, overwhelming things. Like, God, it seems so luxurious and everything that I'm wanting and desiring. I basically had to recognize how dangerous that was, and how I needed to make sure that even though I'm naturally geared that way, and that is naturally always going to be a topic that I'm really interested in and a theme that I come back to in my work and my, you know, my fantasy life and everything, it can have a massive shadow side to it. It can make you surrender your power. It can make you believe things that aren't true. It can make you want so much for something to be real that isn't real at all. And I had to kind of just basically remind myself that I've got to be in a romance with me. And that's the only way that I'm going to be able to ever sort of pull myself back from forging a strong romantic bond with someone who's not going to be good for me in my life, and who is, you know, really gonna, well, together, I suppose, in an enzyme catalyst kind of fashion, we're going to cause a lot of trouble for each other. So without letting this woman off the hook, who treated me in this abominable way, and was really a bit of a sick puppy, I would like to say that the way that I made sure that this never really happened again, at least not fully, it happened once for a very short time, and then I put a stop to it because I recognised what it was. The way that I did this was through recognising, you know what, I am just a very romantic person, and I'm very into the whole thing of like connection and intimacy and really seeing each other at a soul level, and I'm interested in passion, I'm interested in sexuality, that all of that stuff speaks to me. And so I have to be aware of the shadow of that and where that could go if I'm not careful. And I just really had that honest conversation with myself, and I think sometimes it's important for us to do that. Do you identify as a cis woman? If not, how do you identify? I do identify as a cis woman. I identify with the gender that I was assigned at birth, but I feel like there are just a lot of issues with gender and gender representation and gender roles, and how that often plays out to the detriment of, you know, everyone to an extent, but, you know, definitely plays out to the detriment of cis women. And I've had major, like, adventures into things like, you know, what it means to dress in a feminine way or a masculine way, what it means to be androgynous, what it means to represent in different ways, and what that says about my personality. I've had a massive adventure into all of that without personally at any point feeling that I was anything other than a woman. So that's been my journey personally. How do you feel about shaving? I've always been an if I feel like it kind of girl. Curious what a modern yet sexy lady like yourself thinks about the new no shave movement. I'm having a very interesting journey with the whole concept of shaving as a woman, and have been going on that journey since my almost mid 20s. I had an experience, one of my experiences in my 20s that led me to feminism more fully, was to do with shaving, and this guy's just ridiculous idea that I should always be shaved everywhere all the time. And we had a conversation about expectations and porn and Hollywood, and like the difference between the reality of a adult human female and the fantasy of one. And it just made me realise, like, this is all bullshit, this is silly. And it started to make me think about the wider implications of feeling like you have to shave your legs or your armpits, and the idea of intimacy with a partner potentially being stunted by the idea of them never seeing you hairy or touching your hair or whatever. And how this relates to heteronormative stuff versus non-heteronormative stuff, because I'm bi, so I really went on a journey, right? And what I decided was that I do enjoy shaving for myself, whether or not that is part of a brainwashing process that I still need to rid myself of, I don't know, but for now I feel like it's okay, and I'm okay where I am. But I don't like shaving all the time. I don't like shaving my legs, armpits, etc. super regularly, because it irritates my skin. I really love the feel of a shave when I haven't shaved for a while, if the fancy takes me in any area of the body. I make it a point when I am with new sexual partners not to shave. I don't want to set any kind of expectation, and so I actually make a point of not shaving like when we are starting to become intimate with each other. I want the first time someone is intimate with me that they experience me, you know, not totally shaved everywhere. So I might shave my legs but not, you know, anywhere else or whatever. And I think that's been really important for me. It might sound weird to some people, and it might sound weird to men, but it is very challenging to not shave your whole body and prepare yourself and preen yourself for a sexual experience, because that's what you're so socialized to do. You're so socialized to believe that you're not ready for sex until you've gotten rid of all your hair. So that was a big deal for me, and I'm so glad I made that decision. And it's been so much about really coming into more sexual confidence, which I have as I've gotten older anyway. I've always been, you know, a fairly sexually confident person, but going into my 30s, I'm so much more comfy with myself. And I know a lot of people say this, but yeah, making the decision that I'm not going to associate shaving everything with the first time you're intimate with someone or whatever, or anticipating intimacy with someone, that was a big deal for me, and I'm so glad that I broke that association. Okay, I feel like there's lots more juicy questions that I didn't get to. I feel like this has actually been way more tame than I expected at the beginning, but there'll be more, and I'll go into things people have asked about sex and drugs and teal swan. There's more, okay, I promise, and I will film more very soon. Okay, thank you so much for being with me, darlings, and I hope this has been interesting at least. Much love and blessed be.